It is time to break up with your clutter. Are you done with having this constant fight, feeling like you are spending all your extra time trying to get organized and not seeing a change? Well, let me tell you, you are not alone. Welcome to It's Not Me, It's You, how to break up with your clutter. And to be clear, when I say it's not me, it's you, I mean, it's not you, it's your clutter. We're going to dig in and find out exactly what you need to know in order to break up with your clutter for good, because that's exactly what you deserve. So clutter does feel like we're having that like dysfunctional relationship with like an ex, right? So dealing with clutter is often like a breakup. And we hear a lot of the same things when we're dealing with clutter and trying to deal with and break up with our clutter as we do when we are breaking up with a loved one. So one of the things that we hear is, we actually think that it says more about who we are, but the truth is our clutter says more about who we used to be or who we wanted to be than it does really accurately depict who we are right now. So there's this very interesting like kind of time warp that goes on. We often feel worried that we haven't given our clutter a full shot. Oh, I feel like I could still do something creative with this. So I have an idea, or I don't want it to go to waste. I don't want to put it in the landfill. Even though these objects are hurting us, we tend to keep coming back in and staying committed to them, even though they're causing us a lot of pain. We also sometimes have that feeling or fear, what if the best is behind us? Like, what if it's not going to get any better than this? Maybe something isn't going to go better in the future, so I may as well tough it out and deal with what I have now. Sometimes we actually even feel this deep fear that people are going to judge us or feel really shocked if they knew the truth about our clutter. Just like how we don't talk about our relationships sometimes because we don't want to be judged for what goes on in them. It can be the exact same with our clutter, feeling like, oh, somebody's going to see and they're going to judge me. Sometimes it's just hard to stop holding on to the past. Sometimes it's because we liked the past and we're like, ooh, I don't want to forget this, or I don't want to forget this person. Or maybe it'll get better in time. Maybe it'll get good again, right? This feeling that like maybe there's a resurgence that'll happen. Sometimes we actually have the kind of negative thought that maybe I'm doing this thing wrong. Maybe it's me. Am I doing the wrong thing by leaving? Am I doing the wrong thing by getting rid of this clutter? Maybe I should keep it. Maybe I'll regret it. I don't know. Nervousness, not trusting ourselves. And the greatest fear, which is, what if I'm the problem? What if it's me? What if I get rid of the clutter and the chaos is still here? That's a very, very common fear. Sometimes just letting go of the clutter can just be too painful, can be too scary, because really it's like facing the unknown is terrifying. You're used to the clutter. You're used to the chaos. It's comforting. What does life look like without it? Who am I without my clutter? And that can be a very scary thing to stand on the edge of and look at. And so while we're sitting here acknowledging the fact that breaking up with our clutter feels a lot like breaking up in a dysfunctional relationship, it's really, really valid and important to notice that, because when we start to see these patterns, then we can do something about it. And that is where the magic starts. Because the truth is, organizing is simple and easy until it's not. If organizing was truly simple and easy, I wouldn't have a job. You wouldn't be sitting here with me right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Organizing conceptually, logically, is easy. And we'll go over that in just a second. Like, organizing is pretty simple until it's not. The truth is that organizing is the hardest easy thing that you will ever do. The hardest easy thing you will ever do. And I'm going to explain to you right now what I mean by that. So organizing, on the most basic level, the organizing 101, we look at why clutter is still in our lives despite all of the work we've done. On the most pragmatic level, it's here for two reasons: stuff versus space, meaning that you have more stuff than you do space. That's a pretty easy fix, truth be told. What do? Well, we either reduce the volume of stuff that we have, or we increase the amount of space we're willing to use to store it. Easy peasy, right? That's just like literally like moving one cube and fitting it into a different space. Easy peasy. The other reason why clutter might still be here on the most, again, the physical level, is system issues. So either the fact that no system has been set up, or there's a breakdown in the current system and it needs to be updated. Both of these reasons are very pragmatic and very solvable, very logical. There's no emotion here. It's just like, I need more space, I need less stuff, I need to create a system, I need a box, I need a bin, I need a strategy. Simple, right? Now, I do want to dart off for just a second, because we talk a lot in organizing about what a system is. except that we don't really talk about what a system is. So we're going to discuss systems right now. So what is a system? Systems are just simply strategies for how items are stored and used. That's all. How are you going to store them? How are you going to use them? So we're just going to do a quick deep dive into like Systems 101. So you feel like, in case this is kind of the weak spot for you, that you can strengthen up and create some good systems. Items have a home or a location where they live. They just need a place. And you'll hear some organizers say, oh, one home for everything. There are some exceptions to this rule, but yeah, you want to make sure that everything that you own has a home, that you know where it is when you go to find it, that you know where to put it when you're done with it. This home ideally is easily accessible to everyone who uses it. Meaning, like, if you're 6 foot tall and your child is 4'6", you probably don't want to store things that they need to get up at your height, right? You want to find a common ground so that both of you can access it. It's really important that it's accessible, because then that way you have the buy-in of everyone who's using it to maintain the system. You ideally want to locate that system or that home close to where it's used. Doesn't make any sense to have a letter opener in the bathroom when you open the mail in the office or by the front door. So you want to try to place things where they're going to be the most convenient to be used. Ideally, you want this to be easy to find, take out, and use. The less steps, the better. You want to just be able to easily grab and find what you need when you need it, and just as easily put it away. As few steps as possible. And you want it to be effortlessly well cared for when not in use. If you have family photos, for example, and you keep those on a shelf, and you live in a very dusty city, like the city that I live in, those beautiful photos sitting out on the shelf are going to get sun exposure. They're going to dry out, and they're going to get some dust on them. And so they're not going to be easily well cared for, right? What we want is like them in a box. And then that way they are effortlessly, again, not effort from you, well cared for when not in use. So something that it's like, okay, how can I make sure that these are staying safe when I'm not touching them? You also want it to be functional for everyone who uses it in all the ways that it's used, and easy to maintain and clean. Having a system where things are just very, very simple and easy to manage is important, because you don't want to be creating more work for yourself. So that's Systems 101, creating a home and the basic necessities that you need in building a system. So in case that was a weak spot, now you've got it. So the truth is that the fundamentals of organizing are pretty easy. And if you feel like, oh yeah, I think it's just an organizing fundamental situation, I'm going to set up some situations or some questions for you right now. They're going to help you kickstart into action. So these are the questions that you want to ask yourself in order to start taking action if you have clutter because of more traditional rationale, meaning like, oh, I've got too much stuff, not enough space. So this is going to help move you into action. Question 1, can I easily get rid of anything? Can you just grab a trash bag and just start getting trash? Can you grab things and take it to the car for donation? Can you take things to your sister's house if that's where they belong? Can you easily get rid of anything? And when I say easily, I mean there's no emotional resistance. You don't have any kind of like pushback. There's no fear. There's no fight. It's like, whew, you can just like go and get through it. And that feels really, really great. Am I able to increase the amount of space for these items? Can I increase the amount of space I'm willing? Can I swap out these cabinets so that it has more room? Or can I get rid of this to take up more space? Is this an easy adjustment for you? Do you have a system in place for these items? Really asking, oh, wow, no, you're right. I don't really have a well thought out system. Or if you do, does the current system just simply need to be updated? What tweaks can you make? Do you need to invest in solutions? Do you need to invest in furniture or bins or labels, something that will just take it to the next level? Asking yourself, what is already working for me here? How can I build on that? I have never, in my 2 decades of doing this, ever met a disorganized person. And no, my friend, you are not the exception to that rule. I have never met a disorganized person. I have met people who are partially organized and haven't finished the job, which is more than likely where you're at. If there's something that's working, we want to find what that is that's working and build on it, because you and only you know how your brain works and what you need in order to really thrive when it comes to organization. Another question you can ask yourself is, do I need to schedule time to work on this project? Time blocking is huge. We don't always take the time we need in order to handle the things we need to handle. So yes, life is busy. Yes, you have a lot of things going on, and we give time to our priorities. So taking time to just simply schedule it out, right? And the hardest question of them all, do I need to ask for help? Why is it so hard to ask for help? I don't know, but it is. So do you need to ask for help? And if you do, that's fine. Maybe you need help Hey, this isn't all my stuff. I need your help throwing in and taking your responsibility here. Or, hey, I can't lift this. Can you please come and help me? Or a concept called body doubling. You just might jump on with someone, have them do their projects. You're doing your projects in the same room. Or we do this a lot in the organizing community, the Chaos to Calm organizing community, where we just jump on Zooms together and organize projects. And the sheer presence of another person makes us more productive. It makes you organize longer. It makes you more thorough. You feel this strong like accountability and sense of community. So asking for help can look like a lot of different things. And it's sometimes the hardest thing to do. And it's also oftentimes the most important thing. Now, the truth is that if you've asked yourself those questions and you really still feel like, I still feel stuck and things still feel hard, or that didn't feel like it quite scratched the itch, there's something deeper going on. If clutter was simply about strategy and systems and boxes and labels, you would have been organized years ago. When you try to get organized and you feel like you're a hamster on the wheel and you do not feel like you're making progress, there's something deeper going on. Now, if you didn't know that intuitively, you wouldn't be sitting here with me. You're here because you know that intuitively. And now I'm going to help give you some words and some concepts to put to that feeling that you've always had, that there's something more going on. So why is clutter still here on a deeper level? Well, there's two main reasons. So one is it's acting as a communication. It's helping you get your needs met non-verbally through stuff. It also could be helping you hide. It could help you be seen. It could just be asking for a need or a request for something to happen. The second reason is a life block. Every single room in our home represents an area of our life. Look at feng shui. Feng shui is one of the oldest traditions that we have when it comes to loving and caring for our spaces. And they talk about how every area is like connected to a part of our life. Well, that is absolutely true. And so if you look at your home, the area of your life that room or that clutter represents, it will tell you where you're having a bit of a blockage, right? So when we have this life block, sometimes it's an area of the room, sometimes it's the room itself, sometimes it's the clutter itself. This can also show itself as really like touching on like negative feelings, painful feelings, negative beliefs, somewhere that we feel like this negative belief about ourselves is blocking us. And it's really important to track this, because as long as that kind of old pattern is running in the background, it's ruling you and you don't need that. What we do is that once we name it and we see it, we can actually start to work with it and we can choose to go down a different path. And that's the power of working with our clutter. I don't share this with you because I want you to feel overwhelmed. I share this with you because I want you to be empowered, to know that just because your brain thinks it doesn't mean it's true. Just because you've always done it this way doesn't mean that you always will. There's a lot of choices that we are able to make when it comes to our clutter and our peace of mind and our well-being and our own empowerment. The truth is, and the most important thing that I can share with you in general is, in order to break up with your clutter for good, you have to see how it's helping you. And then you have to get that need met in a non-clutter way. In order to break up with your clutter for good, you have to see how it's helping you. And then you have to find a way to get that need met in a non-clutter way. And that, at the end of the day, is the way that you will get off that hamster wheel. That is how you will break up with clutter. Now, that seems a little nebulous, and we want to take it into action because it's important that any insight that you have is brought into your world in action. And we take our first step towards discovering action with curiosity. Most of us are used to approaching our clutter with judgment, and we want to choose curiosity over judgment because judgment is just going to beat us up. And I don't know about you, but I don't perform well when somebody is beating me up. It's not effective strategy for me. Your judgment shows up because it thinks it's helping you. Your judgment shows up because it thinks if it bullies you, that's going to encourage you to behave better or do things differently. Now, I don't experience that is true. I don't perform well when I'm being pummeled. So what we can do in those moments where we feel our judgment pop up is we can say, thank you, judgment, for coming to try to help. I don't need you. Please step back. I invite in curiosity. Please step back, judgment. Thank you for trying to help, because that's really all it's trying to do. And I welcome curiosity. And we want to dive into our clutter with deep beautiful curiosity. And you can dive into that clutter using these next few questions that will help you discover the truth that your clutter holds for you. The first question you want to ask yourself is clutter inviting a skill or tool I need to acquire? Just like we talked about in the first section, your clutter, it might just be a superficial kind of organizing challenge, and you might just need to learn how to, I don't know, color code like the rainbow, or you might need to like discover where to take those electronic waste items that you don't want to hit the landfill. Like maybe there is like a little learning curve, right? So just asking, like, is this inviting in a new tool or skill? Do I need to learn some communication skills? Do I need to learn, I don't know, how to build a cabinet? Whatever it is, like what are you being invited to take action in? Is your clutter speaking up for you? Now, I've seen this happen a lot. Like it happens way more than you think. If you watched my TEDx talk, I talked about the couple who had a broken teacup on their counter for over a year. And that was a communication to each other, basically saying like, I'm not taking this anymore. Like I didn't do it and I'm not accepting your blame. Thank you. Goodbye. And that was really the teacup was speaking up for them. And it was saying much more, but that was the beginning of that deep conversation. Is clutter helping you hide? Now, this one is very juicy. So I've seen people use clutter to hide from someone toxic in their home. When they live with someone who feels very toxic, they use clutter as like a distraction, like for the other person, like keeping them hidden. I've seen spouses hide things from each other because they don't want their partner to eat their gourmet candy, or use their special Post-its if their kids are burning through the Post-its, right? I've seen that. I've also seen people create clutter in their offices because they've had home invasions before and they don't want someone to find their valuables. And there's a subconscious belief that if the world is in chaos, if their office is in chaos, a burglar couldn't find their priority things. So another great question is it helping me hide? It could be inviting you to set a boundary. Do you need a boundary? I had a teenager that I was working with, and her clutter was just perpetually in her room, in her room, in her room, until she realized that she could actually set a boundary with the people she lived with, and that she was really clear she didn't want them in her private space. She wanted space that felt really private, and she had to set boundaries. Once she did that, she didn't need the clutter. She didn't need the clutter to keep people out because she was able to use her voice to keep people out and have them in on her own terms. Does it help me be seen in some way? Clutter can really help us be seen. So especially for those of you who might have been raised by the quintessential 1950s housewife that needed the house to look just so, it just needs to be so beautiful for everyone else. It didn't matter what you felt like. Well, it's really normal to have a rebellion, right? Like, oh no, I shall be seen. And then really like explode yourself all over the house because like, I deserve to be seen, and you do deserve to be seen, but you don't have to live in chaos to be seen. We can find a beautiful way for you to feel like you are filling your space without needing the chaos. Is this clutter helping me get a need met? Now, look, I know that some of you are going to glaze over, and that's fine. This is a next level question that can feel overwhelming at first when you hear it. Is the clutter helping me get a need met? I don't know, Star, are you crazy? No, I'm not crazy. There is always a way that clutter is helping us. And if you don't know what that is for a very long time, that's okay. It takes time for it to be revealed. It can be very scary and overwhelming to have this come to light. So is the clutter helping you get a need met? Just plant it as a seed of potentiality, right? I've seen clutter help people feel comforted in a really challenging time in their life. I've seen clutter allow them to feel empowered or creative, or to set boundaries. Like clutter really is capable of doing a lot, and it's got some real magic in there. But trust that you'll be shown when you need to be shown. And if you're not sure what that means now, it's okay. Just stay with me. Is this a substitute for something else I actually want? How many times have you bought like 10 pairs of the wrong jeans because you don't want to spend $200 on the best pair of jeans that you know is going to work for you? It's oftentimes that we are just trying to make something else work and not get the thing that we know that we want. So that builds up clutter. And then we tie it in with waste and tie it in with shame and all of this other beautiful packaging. Another question is it keeping me connected to a person or chapter of my life? Keeping things around that remind us of that person, make me feel connected to them. There's ways of doing that without having it spread out all over or letting it feel like a landmine to you. You might get a whiff of a memory at a time that you're not really able to hold space for that, or it might not feel like the right energy for you. Knowing like, okay, great, there's a time and a place place for me to be able to connect. And maybe it's not through my clutter, or maybe it is. We can determine that. Is this clutter awakening an emotion I need to pay attention to? Is there an emotion that's like really stepping up to the plate and asking me to acknowledge it or to feel it? I think one of the greatest challenges we have in organizing is we don't spend time processing deep emotions or telling our stories. And that's vital. It is so vital that you make time in the organizing process to feel your feelings, to process, to stop, to journal, to walk, to read, to go and talk to a friend, to tell a story. It is so, so important to make time for that. That is actually a part of the organizing process. It's not a waste of time or doing something extra. That is the work. That's the work. Is it reminding me of a lesson or keeping me on track in some way? Can't tell you how many times I've seen people hold on to things because they wanted to kind of beat themselves up or remember something that they did wrong in order to like guide themselves better in the future. And what happens sometimes is when we have that kind of lesson, that little nugget that feels pretty negative, actually, like we think it's going to help us be better, but it feels pretty negative. That pain is really uncomfortable and we will cover it. We'll just keep covering it and covering it, covering it. And then next thing you know, your house has exploded into chaos and it's just trying to hide this one thing that didn't quite feel right. And so we can brainstorm, what could it look like to remember that lesson without having to bury it around us or surround ourselves with it? Because every single thing you surround yourself with has an energy, and that energy is kind of moving towards you and really like shifting your experience. And so we want to keep things around you that feel really good. And if it's a lesson or something that you're wanting to get some evolution out of, there's ways of doing that that don't also hurt you. And that's what we really want to look for. Another great question is this even the right time to work on this, or is something else calling? Have you ever started working on an organizing project and just felt like everything was not going your way? You stub your toe, you can't find the garbage bags, you know, like you've come across mold, there's like a whole thing, there's a pipe that bursts, or you just feel this deep anxiety or agitation or frustration or like, and yes, sometimes that can be resistance. Absolutely, that can be resistance. But sometimes that is your soul, your spirit, your higher self knowing that this is not the right project for you. Sometimes we need to do something else, and that agitation or that stubbing of our toe is the universe trying to redirect us. And so track that. It's not always that you're lazy or you don't want to organize. Sometimes we don't want to organize, and yes, we want to watch TV or do something else, but sometimes it's really our highest self re-guiding us. And that's really important to notice. And finally, another great question, is this keeping me distracted from something I'm trying to avoid? Clutter is really, really wonderful at distracting us. It is so much more fun to fight about clutter than it is to fight about what's really going on. It's easier to get lost in the weeds of clutter than it is to acknowledge some of the really scary things happening in our world, happening in our relationships, happening in ourselves. Sometimes it is just easier to distract ourselves. And if that is the case, that's okay. I support you going deep down the rabbit hole of distraction through clutter if that's what you need, but also just being able to name that it's like, wow, like that's where I'm hiding right now. And that's okay. What I want for you is to really take a nice, good look at this list and to see what is resonating with you. And it's better if you think of like a small area than your whole collective clutter, like the whole house of clutter or the car of clutter. Think of one area and then kind of run down this list and like, what is really speaking to you? And when you have that kind of like red flag alert, ooh, this is where something is up for me, then I want you to take it to the next level and say, based on that insight, what is one action I can take today? What's one action I can take today? And then take it or schedule it or book it or ask for help or ask for accountability. You moving your insight into action is what is important. This is a journey. It doesn't happen fast. It doesn't happen like effortlessly, although sometimes it feels effortless when we figure out this deeper meaning stuff, because the deeper meaning is what causes the fog that stops us from making progress, right? So when you start to see the action and you can start to like move through it, the chaos and overwhelm start to relax and we can really get into the movement. And so taking the time to see, okay, what is calling you and what's the action that you can take today? Because the change that you will create through doing this is hugely transformative, and you deserve to have your needs met, and you deserve better than having them being met with clutter. Clutter is wonderful. I love me some clutter. Clutter does beautiful things. It is a wonderful friend. It can be a companion. It can be a wonderful teacher. There's a lot of things that it can do, but you deserve to have your needs met, not through clutter. And it's through the questions that we just talked about that will guide you towards the action that will set you free. And that's all I want for you, is to be free from the chaos and to feel like you can stand fully in your life, in your power, and not need or have the clutter. I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts, because when you're on this journey, it's overwhelming. It can feel lonely, it can feel overwhelming, it can feel stressful. And for as hard as things are, I will hold for you a greater truth that I want you to remember. And this truth is that your clutter is proof of a life well lived, not your flaws. When you look at your clutter, I want you to stop seeing all the things that are wrong with you. And I want you to start looking for all the things that are right. What are the memories? What is the proof of the beautiful life that you have lived? Because when I look at your clutter, that's what I see. And I know that it's in there. And I know it can be buried. I know those feelings can feel really real, but you are not your flaws. Your clutter is really illuminating the beautiful life that you've lived. Please know that it will not always be this way. I know sometimes it feels like a struggle and it feels overwhelming and you don't know how you're going to do it. And it will not always be this way, I promise you. You are making progress, even when it doesn't feel like it, even when it feels like you're stuck in mud. You're here. You are sitting here, talking, hanging out, listening to me. We are engaging right now because you are making progress, because you felt something say, there's something bigger going on, and I think I need some help with that. You are making progress. And it's fascinating how it happens. Sometimes it feels like we're coasting, not making much progress, but that coasting is allowing us to reserve our resources for the moments that we go into deep action, because our deep action time takes a lot from us. And we really have to have our reserves going in order for that to happen. So you just please remember that you are making progress even when it seems like you're not. And that you have an inner organizing genius who is not just present, but who is ecstatic to help. Now, I promise you, I've never met a disorganized person in 2 decades of doing this. You are not the exception, my friend. I'm so sorry. You have an inner organizing genius, something in you. You know how you like things, right? You know how you want things, right? We just have to create a system that works for you. It's like your inner organizing genius has just never been let out of her bag before. It's going to get her out of the bag and like set her free. It's going to be amazing and wonderful. And when you have that resource, when you're really tapping that resource, everything becomes a lot easier. You, my friend, are capable of hard things. This is not the hardest thing you've ever done. You have done way harder in your life. You are resilient and you are capable of great things. I know that you are capable of this in spades. Your best life is not behind you. You are creating it right now. It is easy to believe sometimes that our 20-year-old self had it all. And that's just not true. You have never been more spectacular than you are today. You have never been so rich, so powerful, so capable, so creative, so magnificent as you are today. You are just brimming over with magic and delight. And everything that you have lived till now is part of who you are and what you are becoming. The best is yet to come. Please stick around. The best is yet to come. Where you are going is magnificent. You do not have to do this alone. This is a long, challenging journey, as I know that you know. This is not your first rodeo. You've been doing this for a while. I know it hasn't taken as short as you wanted it to. I know it hasn't moved as quickly. I know it doesn't feel the way you want it to yet, but you do not have to do this alone. It's not always going to be this hard. It's just not. You have made so much progress already. And I know without a doubt that you've got this. You can do this. You are capable of this. And you are so far down the road, to turn back would be a huge mistake, because you have already come so far. You are so much closer than you think. This imagining, this rethinking our clutter, this looking at life differently and you looking at yourself differently is the way that we start to break up with clutter for good. If boxes and labels and containers and color-coded systems were the solution, you would already be organized. This deeper inquiry This moment that you knew that you had to stop here and be with me is that aha, that awakening into this next chapter of you truly breaking up with your clutter, stopping with the moving things around and shifting and feeling frustrated by not getting the results that you want, and really starting to reimagine your life, your clutter, and seeing what's truly in there. That is the power of your clutter, and that is the healing power, and really the way through of breaking up with your clutter. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that this is just a step that guides you into your journey in a deeper, more rich, more profound way. I know that you are capable of great things, and that this journey with your clutter is bringing you huge transformation, and that you are getting closer every minute to being free of this chaos that feels like it's burdened you for so long. I see you. I acknowledge you. I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for being here.